Resolution, my gentlewoman from Illinois.
The gentlewoman from Illinois is recognized for 3 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, again, I want to rise to point out the hypocrisy of those who would claim to care about our children while turning a blind eye to the scale of child suffering inflicted by Trump and Netanyahu's unlawful, unaccountable military operations in Lebanon. And yes, I did say Trump and Netanyahu's military operations. While Netanyahu may be dropping the bombs, those operations are blessed by Trump, and the bombs are provided courtesy of the United States government. Israeli executed U.S.-approved strikes have killed more than 3,400 people, including 240 children. UNICEF reports that 11 Lebanese children are killed or injured every single day. And over 1 million civilians have been displaced. Nearly a quarter of Lebanon's entire population does not have enough to eat. And we're watching another catastrophe of U.S. complicity in destruction, displacement, and death unfold. Trump, Hexeth, Netanyahu launched an unlawful war in Iran to remain in power and enrich themselves. And let's be clear, Trump, Hexeth, and Netanyahu will keep expanding their war to further consolidate their power and profit and to stay in power. And my colleagues in Congress have enabled their abuses. They have watched children die, whether it's in Palestine, in Iran, in Lebanon, and they've shrugged off requests for action because it's complicated. What's complicated about this? It's not. The President of the United States is waging an unlawful war, aiding and abetting Israel to violate U.S. and international law, and it's making his friends rich and himself richer, all while children are starving, they're suffering, and they're dying. It's not complicated, it's actually grotesque. Bottom line, whether it's Lebanon, Gaza, or Iran, the United States and Israel are violating U.S. and international law, and this Congress has failed to stop them. But impunity should not be an option. There shouldn't be more excuses, more endless wars, more blank checks for warmongers paid for by the suffering of children. It's why Representative Tlaib and I introduced the Lebanon Wars Power Resolution to force Congress to vote, assert our constitutional authority, and end the complicity in unlawful military operations and wars. And let me end by saying this. Let me make sure I look at you, my colleague here on the right. We cannot bomb our way to peace. True safety is not realized at the end of a barrel of a gun, by a bomb, or via chokehold of suppression or oppression. I want to urge my colleagues to support this War Powers Resolution, and I would also encourage you to join Block the Bombs Act. With that, I yield back.
Gentlewoman from Illinois yields back.
Reserve.
Gentlewoman from Michigan reserves. The chair reminds members to direct all remarks to the chair. The gentleman from Florida is recognized.
Recognize myself, Mr. Speaker. I hope my colleague's not going to leave. I would love to speak to you as well. I have a serious question for you, if you want to approach a mic. The question's for you. I mean, if you need other people to answer for you, then it's what it is. It's my time.
The gentleman from Florida controls the time.
My understanding is you want to help Lebanese civilians.
I want to make sure that we no longer are using our authority, our bombs, our resources to bomb children. That's what I want to do.
Okay,
I want to
so
make sure that
let's
money
say
is going to healthcare,
children.
housing, education,
Reclaim.
things that your
To do
constituents
this
need.
correctly,
Gentleman
I have to
reclaims his
reclaim.
time.
I'll yield you back in a moment. I'm reclaiming. So, the United States Armed Forces that are training the LAF, who are fighting Hezbollah who's killing children there, killing civilians. Would you like to see them stay? And I yield you some time.
He's having a different debate here, but let me come back to what the Congresswoman just mentioned to you. If you look at the legislation
If you'll
that
answer my
Congresswoman
question, I'll give you
Tlaib
time.
introduced, clearly pursuant to Section 5C, it shows you
I'll
that
reclaim my time.
unless,
Gentleman
well, you don't want to
reclaims his
hear an
time.
answer, that's the point.
If you want to...
Because you want to be able to make up your own answers. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So, they want to go back. They don't want to talk about Hezbollah. Still yet no mention of Hezbollah from our colleagues over there. They don't want us to talk about the support the United States Armed Forces are giving to the LAF to combat Hezbollah because they're not acknowledging them. And apparently they don't want to see Israel killing Hezbollah, even though it's Hezbollah that is killing Israeli children, Israeli adults, Israeli elders, firing. I gave them the count of rockets, UAVs, casualties, drones, gave them the count. No mention of it whatsoever. I'm going to yield some time to my colleague, Mr. Miller here. 4 minutes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
The gentleman is recognized for 4 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I rise in opposition to HCON Res 84, but like most of my colleagues, whether they'll admit it or not, I am a little confused. The United States, to my knowledge, doesn't have any troops in Lebanon. In fact, the last time American service members were deployed in Lebanon was in 1984. Even though the gentlelady from Michigan believes that the U.S. is the root of all evil, the United States is playing a vital role in advancing peace, security, and stability in Lebanon as we currently speak. Just a couple of days ago, President Trump brokered a pause to further defensive Israeli military action in southern Lebanon, and the U.S. State Department has hosted several rounds of historic peace talks, as we've currently been seeing. Regardless of what the gentlelady from Michigan will tell you, the greatest threat to Lebanon remains the Iranian regime and its terrorist proxy, Hezbollah, not the United States, and not Israel, as that country has come out more of the gentlelady's mouth than the United States, and I believe that's what she's seeking to remove from Lebanon. But if my colleagues on the other side actually cared about the people of Lebanon, which it's clear they don't, they would cheer on the elimination of these bloodthirsty terrorists, not advancing meaningless resolutions to denigrate American foreign policy only to embolden them. For decades, Iran has used Hezbollah to project power throughout the Middle East. In the process, Hezbollah has weakened the Lebanese state and repeatedly drawn Lebanon into conflicts that serve Tehran's interests. While I can appreciate the passion from my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, I do not appreciate their lack of education and understanding of what is really going on there. So let us be clear. Hezbollah is a terrorist organization from the gentlelady from Michigan, and its members are butchers that you like to, hang out with to a certain extent. No nation can be fully sovereign when an armed group operates outside the authority of its elected. Oh, I'm sorry. Are we getting a little emotional?
Gentleman will suspend.
Oh, gentlemen will suspend.
What's going on?
I certainly believe you advocate for them, yes. You advocate for terrorists on a daily basis.
The House will be in order.
You advocate for a terrorist regime every single day from the gentlelady from
The
Michigan.
House will be in order. The House will be in order.
You associate yourself with that.
Colleagues, this is a serious topic. We will debate it respectfully and deliberately. Is the gentlewoman from Michigan making a motion to take down?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I am. That is a direct attack on my character. I please
Gentleman from
request
Ohio will
to
be
strike
seated.
the words down.
Gentleman from Ohio will
It
be
was.
seated. No member is currently recognized for debate. The gentleman from Ohio will be seated. The clerk. The clerk will report the words.
I don't hear nothing. We want the Bush family, the Reagan family, and all the other political families to pay close attention to this chaotic moment
No one is currently recognized for debate.
that's happening here in America and will continue to only tragically get worse even as we get further and further into this. Of course, Chief will identify the problems at hand. The problems at hand. Why they're meeting that away from the people, I don't know. I would like to be able to hear what's going on. And I think everybody else would too. Public meeting, how come we're not hearing it publicly? the Bible is only fulfilling itself by saying what Jesus said, that in the last days there would be commotion, there would be war, there would be rumors of war, there would be problems, there would be outbreaks, there would be uprisings. This is all part of the deal of people not wanting to support a utopia or a wide world peace pertaining to biblical Bible peace. Biblical Bible peace. Not a political peace, but a real biblical Bible peace. These people went up against peace. They didn't want peace. So if you don't get peace, what do you get? Chaoticness. Problems. Wars. Rumors of wars. Welcome to the 21st century. Sad. Sad state of affairs that certain politicians and preachers have put the American people in, and the world. Not just a few of us, but the whole world. And you wonder how come President Putin says that we got cheated? We've got cheated of our own peace and harmony. We've got cheated of other people's peace and harmony. We've got cheated regarding seeing the manifestation of biblical Bible prophecy fulfill itself. That's what we've gotten cheated on. And until these church people, these corporate church people decide that they're going to, I guess the right word would be recognize their faults in response to all this, it's only going to get worse. It's only going to get worse. This is what they wanted. If you don't want to support somebody that supports peace, that means you support the very opposite. You don't take a brainchild and figure it out. So whenever the Reagan family and the Bush family all come together in recognition of ending of the Cold War, whenever they all come together in saying one thing but doing just the very opposite, now this is the repercussions of that. That even Reagan himself said, what are they going to say about us if they were to drop a time capsule and bury it in the White House lawn and dig it up 100 years from now, what would it say? And to keep in mind that those people are going to know everything about us because we've already went through our cycle, but we're absolutely not going to know nothing about them. Nothing about them. Now let me look at something real quick. Maybe I hit the mute button. Let me be sure that this ain't on mute. Nope. It's open. This is very unusual to see this kind of prime time of basically muting everything and everybody. Highly unusual for a court to be doing this. A hearing court to be doing this. Let's go to something else real quick. There's no need of me sitting here talking just to hear my head rattle.
Healthcare and protecting our fundamental freedoms, Americans know who has their interests at heart, and they know this Republican majority does not. For over a year, Donald Trump and House Republicans have consistently disregarded the needs of hardworking families. In the Trump economy, families are struggling to afford groceries, gas, and healthcare. But rather than using their powers to help people, what they've decided to do is just this week offer $70 billion, a blank check for ICE, while gutting healthcare and food assistance programs and refusing to end costly conflict with Iran. And instead of lowering costs for Americans, Trump single-handedly is dividing his own party through his retribution campaign. He's nominating unqualified, yes man to be his intelligence community chief, and he's making America's 250th birthday entirely about himself. The American people are paying attention, and they know what is happening, and they know this is not what they voted for. They voted to lower costs, and what they got was higher costs and chaos. People are working harder just to stay afloat while they watch Trump and his inner circle continue to enrich himself through backroom deals and stock trading and no-bid government contracts. Americans are ready to put an end to the Trump and Republican corruption. Democrats are stepping in. Democrats believe Americans' hardworking tax dollars should go to making people's lives better, not just to enrich Trump and his family. We'll keep fighting to ensure that that happens. Vice Chair Ted Lieu.
Thank you, Chairman Aguilar. I want to thank the White House for repeatedly putting the National Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett on TV, because Kevin Hassett is really helping Democrats with our messaging. This is what Director Hassett recently said on national TV. Quote, "People are spending more on gas, but they're also spending more on everything else. Not just groceries, but restaurants and so on." Kevin Hassett, you're exactly right. People are spending more because guess what? Inflation is up. Inflation is higher now than it was when Trump took office last year. Grocery prices are up, gas prices are up, consumer products are up. And what is Trump focused on? Putting his face on a $250 bill, putting his face on U.S. passports, and putting his name on airports. We ask Republicans and the Trump administration to do what the American people want, which is to lower costs. Now, I want to talk about another issue, which is the United States Supreme Court. There's this case in Alabama where the legislature has proposed a map that a panel of 3 federal appellate judges who are conservative put an injunction on. 2 of these federal appellate judges were appointed by Trump himself. One was initially appointed by Ronald Reagan. And they said that this map was based on intentional racial discrimination. The Supreme Court recently lifted an injunction on that map and is allowing this racist map to go into force in Alabama for this year's election. That is unconscionable, and it shows that the current Supreme Court is out of control, out of touch with the American people, and acting in a purely partisan manner. This is the most corrupt Supreme Court we've seen in our history, and reform is going to come next year.
Questions? Michael?
Those two issues have been very central to some of your criticisms about the bill outside of the underlying $70 billion for ICE and CBP. I'm wondering if the bill comes over to the House, which there's a long way to go, but if the bill comes over to the House, and the borrowing funding isn't in the bill, and the kind of weaponization fund is not part of the conversation either, what's your message to the American people about the opposition the House Democrats still have with the second reconciliation of the
Our opposition has always been based about the substance, giving a $70 billion blank check to ICE, who has a history of brutalizing and terrorizing communities, killing U.S. citizens, is not what we should be doing. That those agencies need accountability and oversight. We should not be giving them more resources without also conditioning accountability. That was the basis behind our opposition before, and it'll continue to be the basis of our opposition. Now, what Senate Republicans did was they tried to pull one over on the American people and add in some language here and some language there that were incredibly, even objectionable to Senate Republicans, which is a stretch, but that's the only reason why they're pulling back now, is they've divided Republicans on these issues, and those issues have zero support among the American people. So we're going to continue to talk about this, especially the weaponization fund, because all of the language that they have put out still leaves them quite a bit of flexibility. to move forward with this. Maybe after June 11th, when the judge indicated that they couldn't do anything to. So that's going to continue to be our objection, and I think that even some Senate Republicans still have some objections, but we'll see how the afternoon goes. Max?
We saw your statement on the news against the chair of Representative Congress, as a member of the State Caucus, what's your reaction to this? And you think the mayor is making one calculation?
I'm sorry, folks, about it.
Oh, look, I can't speak to the mayor's political calculus here. That's not my job.
Good reception here, pretending to unmute and all this stuff. Looks like they're doing the same thing still here on live. This is live now, a live feed on this platform. This is a huge platform. I'm going to say probably any given day, 20 plus million people watching public affairs on C-SPAN. Let's see what this one goes to.
Aware that Bezalel Smotrich, one of the most radical extremists in that coalition government, also attended uninvited. I was unaware of that, and I am incredibly disappointed that that occurred, because I have called for his removal, I have called for sanctions against him, and I think another area where Brad and I agree is that what is going on in the West Bank that is being led by Smotrich is absolutely unacceptable. I have been a leader on that from the beginning. I have in Congress in opposing the settlements and in opposing the expansion of the violence, and I will continue to lead in that so that Palestinians have human rights, self-determination, and there can be peace and security in the region.
Okay, thank you. Mr.
That's the only thing I've heard for the past 20 minutes. It sounds halfway
Israel is
decent.
committing genocide in Gaza, violating international law, violating Palestinian human rights. I believe we should not be sending additional U.S. military aid to Israel, and I won't be marching in the Israel Day parade alongside government ministers in Netanyahu's government, like Bezalel Smotrich, a war criminal who called it moral and just to starve Palestinians. Representative Goldman has voted for every standalone aid package to Israel, for all the 2,000-pound bombs that destroyed all of the hospitals and schools and most of the homes in Gaza, where Netanyahu and the IDF now occupy 70% of the territory. So no, I won't send any additional U.S. military aid to Israel. I will sign on to the Block the Bombs Act and the Ceasefire Compliance Act, which Representative Goldman does not. I view what's happening there as a genocide. I've been
Once
fighting
more
against
again,
Israel's
the
occupation of the
people in
West Bank.
Northwest Tennessee, by and large, going back 30 plus years ago, did not want peace. They wanted to declare an individual who had stepped out into the eyes of the public. After going to the United States Congress, my son and I, they did not want to render or acknowledge the things that the founder, which is myself, preaching and teaching, that has led us down this endless, mad Max road of
And once again, here on the House floor, members have been debated a Lebanon War Powers resolution. Congressman Max Miller of Ohio was in the process of debating this resolution when he made remarks that Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib of Michigan found offensive. Congresswoman Tlaib is the sponsor of the bill, and she was apparently offended by Congressman Miller's remarks and demanded that his words should be taken down. That procedural maneuver where the parliamentarian and the chair determined together whether the words were objectionable. And again, if they were, he would be prevented from speaking for the rest of the day. We're going to show you that incident now as it happened about 10 minutes ago here on the House floor.
Please do. Please, let's listen to this. Please. To my viewers, please. Listen up.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Here we go.
I rise in opposition to HCON Res 84, but like most of my colleagues, whether they'll admit it or not, I am a little confused. The United States, to my knowledge, doesn't have any troops in Lebanon. In fact, the last time American service members were deployed in Lebanon was in 1984. Even though the gentlelady from Michigan believes that the U.S. is the root of all evil, The United States is playing a vital role in advancing peace, security, and stability in Lebanon as we currently speak. Just a couple of days ago, President Trump brokered a pause to further defensive Israeli military action in southern Lebanon, and the U.S. State Department has hosted several rounds of historic peace talks, as we've currently been seeing. Regardless of what the gentlelady from Michigan will tell you, the greatest threat to Lebanon remains the Iranian regime and its terrorist proxy, Hezbollah, not the United States, and not Israel, as that country has come out more of the gentlelady's mouth than the United States, and I believe that's who she's seeking to remove from Lebanon. But if my colleagues on the other side actually cared about the people of Lebanon, which it's clear they don't, they would cheer on the elimination of these bloodthirsty terrorists, not advancing meaningless resolutions to denigrate American foreign policy only to embolden them. For decades, Iran has used Hezbollah to project power throughout the Middle East. In the process, Hezbollah has weakened the Lebanese state and repeatedly drawn Lebanon into conflicts that serve Tehran's interests. While I can appreciate the passion from my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, I do not appreciate their lack of education and understanding of what is really going on there. So let us be clear. Hezbollah is a terrorist organization from the gentlelady from Michigan, and its members are butchers that you like to, hang out with to a certain extent. No nation can be fully sovereign when an armed group operates outside the authority of its elected. Oh, I'm sorry. Are we getting a little emotional?
Gentlemen will suspend.
Oh, gentlemen will suspend. I certainly believe you advocate for them, yes. You advocate for terrorists on a daily basis.
The House will be in order.
You advocate for a terrorist regime every single day from the gentlelady from Michigan.
The House will be in order. The House will be in order.
You associate yourself with that.
Colleagues, this is a serious topic. We will debate it respectfully and deliberately. Is the gentlewoman from Michigan making a motion to take down?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I am. That is a direct attack on my character. I please
Gentleman
request
from Ohio will
to
be
strike
seated.
the words down.
Gentleman from Ohio will
It
be
was.
seated. No member is currently recognized for debate. The gentleman from Ohio will be seated. The clerk.
I don't think it's so much what he said, but how he said it, bloodthirsty, using all these flamboyant words in basically chastising this particular lady, or reprimanding this particular lady. I don't know. I don't know if it needs to be thrown out or not. You tell me. You tell me what should be done here. I mean, he was making some very strong points, some very good points. Though maybe it could have been reworded a little bit differently. I mean, sometimes if it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, sounds like a duck, it's probably a duck, right?
No one is currently recognized for debate.
And I guess they throwed it out then. Or maybe they're still debating on throwing it out. I don't know. A resolution debate.
And that's how it played out about 10 minutes ago here on the House floor. And we are still waiting for resolution to this from the chair and the parliamentarian. As you see, members gathered together discussing what we think they're discussing here, this incident that just happened on the House floor. And we're expecting a resolution at some point.
He used some pretty flamboyant words, no doubt. He really did. That was demeaning to her character. So I see both sides.
Speaking of the Senate, senators today expected to begin their vote-a-rama on the immigration enforcement bill, but it looks like that is not happening tonight. The motion to move forward with debate on that measure was approved earlier today, 53 to 46. That debate now expected to resume tomorrow morning. While we wait for a resolution here on the House floor, we're going to take you to Homeland Security Secretary Markwayne Mullin as he appeared earlier today before the House Homeland Security Committee.
different thing. They must have touched the toe down or something. How chaotic is that? How chaotic is that?
Without objection.
Mr. President, Republicans are ready to move forward when funding critical components of our government: Immigration and Customs Enforcement, Border Patrol. I heard the minority leader here on the floor of the Senate a few minutes ago, and it sounds like he is continuing, as the Democrats have been doing, standing with illegal immigrant criminals, protecting illegal immigrant criminals rather than protecting American citizens. What we're proposing in the bill that we'll be discussing today is a bill that's targeted and focused, and it is a vote for safe communities, not for criminals, specifically criminal illegal aliens. It is a vote for secure borders. Safe communities and secure borders are the top priorities of American citizens. People want to live in safe communities. They want secure borders.
I recognize myself for an opening statement. Good morning. Thank you, Secretary Mullen and Deputy Secretary Edgar, for appearing before the committee today. Secretary Mullen, I'd first like to congratulate you on your confirmation. We appreciate you being here for your first hearing before the House since being sworn in. We look forward to building a strong working relationship as we continue our shared mission of keeping the American people safe. Today's hearing allows members to evaluate the Department of Homeland Security's proposed budget for fiscal year 2027. I encourage my colleagues to use this opportunity to ask.
You know, I'm going to weigh in on what he just said about keeping the American people safe. It seems like the more that they talk about safety, we become unsafe. It seems like the more that they talk about privacy, our privacy gets taken from us. It seems like everything that they discuss in what they're trying to achieve for the betterment of the will of the people has a tendency of going just the very opposite. Now, is it my I guess you'd call it oppression of translation of understanding this going down this way, or am I being accurate in what I'm saying? Because to me, instead of things getting better, in actuality, they're becoming even worse. And it's not just worse on an international, global level, but worse as far as our homes, our neighborhoods, our communities, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Or as you mentioned, though, some of the headlines here. Former Obama aides criticize Jill Biden for rewriting Biden administration history. Ex-aides give it a frosty review. Just some of what she is dealing with as, Judy, she is answering the questions out there on the road. Judy Kurtz, live for us tonight in our nation's capital.
Up to Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood over two-tier policing. The reason why they don't want to politicise this is because they will discover the consequences of this is that people will realise of the anti-white, anti-racist policies in the British police system. You know, they didn't say don't politicise the death of George Floyd. They're all for that. They're only anti-politicising something that doesn't work out for them.
Yeah. Well, we actually have that soundbite real quick. Let's roll that.
Giving family have asked us not to respond in the way that the leader of Reform has responded. They've asked us not to. Exploiting this tragedy to create grievance and division would be wrong in any circumstances, but to do it when the family are expressly saying, please don't, is unforgivable.
That dude can pound sand as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, you can see there is this obsession with British politicians with the phrase division. Yeah, and this is what has frankly been the policy of successive governments of both red and blue stripes. Obviously, flipped sides for you guys in the States in terms of right and left there. But it has always been about division. You know, we've had mass migration, therefore multiculturalism, and therefore anyone that says, actually, you know, I think rapid demographic change is a bad thing. I think anti-white institutional behaviour is a bad thing. They'll say, oh, you're causing division. Oh, you're talking about, oh, there's Pakistani rape gangs. No, you can't talk about that. That's causing division.
Yeah, now watch, they're going to haul you away and arrest you just for saying that from Great Britain. But we got your back. Jack Hatfield, we
appreciate it.
All right.
Chaotic.
in Southampton, clearly intent with violence and to cause damage. I feel really sorry for our communities that they're experiencing this. They don't deserve it.
Do you think the words of some politicians like Nigel Farage, when he talks about demonstrating pure cold rage, have helped the policing job that you need to do on the streets?
It's not for me to comment on what politicians say or don't say, but what I would say is politicians have a level of responsibility, they have a platform, and I think I can safely say most politicians would not want to have seen that violence and that disorder happening on our streets.
As forces look again at the way they police and the politicians debate, it's the Novak family left without their son, who want answers and lasting change for Henry. Lucy Manning, BBC News.
Now, still to come for you here on World News America, we're looking at those protests against the US plan to establish an Ebola isolation centre in Kenya. We'll also have our political panel, so do stay with us.
Like I said a while ago, this is all in reference to biblical Bible prophecy pertaining to Christ saying that in the last days that there would be uprisings. In the last days there would be wars. In the last days there would be disturbances. In the last days people's lives and communities would be torn apart. I did not predict a bloody road ahead based upon what I wanted. I predicted a bloody road ahead because of the non-compliance of supporters in supporting the Jesus Christ Jubilee's Windmill Ministries missions. The whole time, the message has been put out there for 30 plus years about peace, love, grace, mercy, forgiveness, etc. But society didn't want to support me in that. So inevitably, if you're not striving towards listening to the truth regarding true, authentic, genuine justice pertaining to righteousness, then obviously you're going to be going in the opposite direction. Sad, heartbreaking sad. I've got to watch this stuff now exploding on live TV, just as the scripture says, for it was as the noise of thunder, one of the beasts saying, come and see. It was as the noise of thunder. Didn't say it was thunder. It was as the noise of thunder. One of the beasts said, come and see. And that's what we're hearing right now. We're hearing the noise of thunder. We're hearing the noise of retribution. We're hearing the noise of ridicule. We're hearing the noise of denial. We're hearing the noise of demons crying out through various people, knowing that their time is short, even as once more another biblical Bible prophecy coming true, that Satan will come down in great wrath because he knoweth his time is short. He knows that he has failed in this provocative competition that started thousands of years ago up in heaven, whenever basically the Lucifer, the Antichrist, the false prophet, Satan himself, all the demons basically that turned themselves into demons, because at one time they used to be the same as any other holy angel, but now they're just the opposite. They're just the opposite of truth. They're just the opposite of righteousness. They're just the opposite of light. They're just the opposite of good. So they transfigurated themselves whenever they done this. Because at one time, the Lucifer used to stand beside Michael, that was considered one of the most glorious angels in heaven. Until he got the big head. Until he got to thinking that he could run the show. Until he got to defying the very essence of the kingdom of God himself, the Almighty. I just hope and pray, this is what, June the 3rd, I hope and pray June the 3rd, 2026, I just hope and pray that one day various people like my granddaughter and maybe other people as well will be able to sit down and reasonably see and understand my true intent, my true motives, and for standing up the way that my son and I did. That even to this day, I still get slandered, I still get reprimanded, I still get criticized because I photographed my son during times that he himself was ashamed, not so much of his dad, but ashamed of the things that had happened to his dad that he took sides on back years and years ago. But that changed within the last 6 months of my son's life, and instead of being against his dad, he actually started supporting his dad. He started understanding his dad. He started digging deep into the facts, just like him. I'm just going to use this real quick for an illustration. Out of the blue, and I know it wasn't just out of the blue, it had to have been God that impressed this upon to his heart towards him digging a little deeper in taking the documentary called A Noble Life of the Oklahoma bombing and looking at it and listening to it and analyzing it quite thoroughly. You know what my son's opinion was after he got through watching that? Dad, you was right. Dad, you was right. There was a cover-up. Dad, you was right. There is no way that 3,000 pounds of ammonia nitrate or fertilizer or cow manure done that kind of damage. Dad, you was right. Now that come about within the last 6 months of my son's life. My son was influenced, and he was influenced by the wrong influences pertaining to his mother, Ali, my third and fourth last two wives, which was the same because I married her both times. My son was strongly influenced there towards the beginning in discrediting his dad, discrediting the things that his dad was a part of, discrediting the truth, until my son and his wife went to, I think, Rome or Italy or somewhere like that. He wound up in the Vatican. He wound up in some rooms that he wasn't supposed to wound up in. And my son, whenever he got off that airplane coming back home, had a complete, total disposition about himself that even his best friend swears the same thing, that Nicholas was a completely different person within the change of events after they took their last vacation, after he wound up in the Vatican, after he wound up going into some secret chambers and seeing things or hearing things that wasn't supposed to have been open for the general public. Now, according to my son, nobody reprimanded him, nobody tarnished him, nobody penalized him, nobody punished him. A matter of fact, according to my son, they done just the very opposite. They loved on him, they welcomed him, they made him feel like a child of God. Now, I don't know what my son's seen, I don't know what he heard, I don't know what he experienced. I just know that last November, long about Thanksgiving, he come down here temporarily, him and his daughter stayed one night driving his boss man's truck, which was a Toyota Tundra, pulling his camper. We got along just fine. We reminisced over old things, and it was really enlightening to me that he was so appreciative and cooperative. Until we said our bye-byes and he left. And then about 5 minutes later, I look up and he's coming back. We must have forgot something. He pulls up and says, "Dad, I forgot to give you something." He handed me a card. As he was handing me a card, he handed me his rosary. He said, "I meant to tell you this, but I forgot. I've given up on the Catholicism religion. but I haven't given up on God. I haven't given up on the Lord Jesus Christ. I said, son, are you sure you want to give over your rosary to me? He said, yes, I do. I'll go, okay. He left. I opened the card. Gave me $100. And there was a card in it that said mercy. No other explanations. Mercy. Indicating the trueness from the Heavenly Father. Now something happened to my son, because at that point in time, me and him draw closer and closer on a day-to-day level, talking about the Bible, talking about the facts, talking about him venturing into watching the Noble Light, talking about various things coming from various Catholic members from the priesthood versus various preachers. We had become bonded to the point that the things that I got to telling him about, even so much as Phoenix, Arizona, one of his last stops that he made before trying to come back home, that their time zone was different. Well, I didn't know that. In other words, he didn't question me, he didn't argue, he didn't debate, he didn't try to slander or degrade. Well, I didn't know that. There was one other thing that come up during our conversations while he was out in Phoenix. And I said, son, you know better than that. I've never been wanting to hurt or harm nobody. And his response was, Dad, I know that. Dad, I know that. In other words, my son's eyes was finally being opened in identifying that his father wasn't a Looney Tune. That his father wasn't a make-believer or some sort of a fake, phony person that was doing these things in self-recognition. I just wanted to say that for the record, pertaining to my son, his daughter, and like I said, I just hope and pray to God that one day, whenever the dust finally settles, whenever the smoke finally leaves the room, and everybody and cool heads must prevail pertaining to all this bickering, arguing, and violence, that one day the trueness of the people will identify the truth that the individual speaking behind the camera right now was as sincere and was as right could be. I just wanted to verify that for the record. Good luck to all of us. God bless America. God bless our troops. God bless our endeavors for which way we go from here. Heaven help us all, and shalom. Mercy be unto us all. Shalom.